10 years from today, Lisa Schneider will trade in her office job to become the leader of a pack of dogs. As the owner of her own dog rescue, that is. A second act made possible by the reskilling courses Lisa's taking now with AARP to help make sure her income lives as long as she does. And she can finally run with the big dogs. And the small dogs, who just think they're big dogs. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/skills.
BTW, FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an adjustable implant, 68 milligrams radiopaque. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour, as it is Kelly Green Week, which also coincides with Dallas Cowboys Week. It's for the first time since 1995. The Philadelphia Eagles will wear their Kelly Green uniforms on the road, this time in Texas at AT&T Stadium against division rival and the second place 4-5-1 Dallas Cowboys. I'm your host, LJ Roll, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, it's been a long day. We were just talking before we came on here. How you doing?
Yes, I am. I am the proud parent of a sick child who spiked a fever this evening, so our household's been a little less than stellar today. But I mean, it's crazy to hear you say 4-5-1 is second place. Just saying, but let's get into it.
Yeah, by Friday at around 6:15, 6:30, the Eagles can have the NFC wrapped up, and we will discuss that as we dive into this game. But before we do that, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHorrell54. And follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpool Network. Be sure to like, subscribe, rate each show, rate our show. Let us know your thoughts. And if you're joining us live, let us know your thoughts on this game in the comments, your prediction of players to watch, the keys to the game. This is a big one. With all the talk that has been going on this week, all the annoying talk, I just want a win. There was, listening to WIP this week, there were people saying, I'd much rather the Eagles put up 35 points and lose than to win. Whoever thinks that is a freaking moron. And yes, talking to those idiots on the WIP that host shows on WIP. No. You play. What did Herm Edwards say? You play to win the game. I don't care if it's 2-0. I don't care if it's 13-10. I don't care if it's 35-31. Win the game. Do we want the offense to be more consistent? Yes, of course we do. But I am not sacrificing a win. If the Eagles beat the Cowboys tomorrow and beat the Bears on Friday, and Dallas loses to the Eagles tomorrow and lose to the Chiefs on Thursday, guess what? The Eagles win the NFC East. And they're still on track, obviously, for the number 1 seed. So you don't sacrifice wins when you have the Rams, the Seahawks, the Bucks, the Lions, the Bears. Like, it's tight atop the NFC, as tight as it's ever been, or not as ever been, but as tight as it's been in a long, long time. You do not sacrifice a win just because, oh, look, the offense put up 35, everybody's happy. No, you put up 35 points and you lose. Guess what? I'm not happy. So don't care how it gets done. The Philadelphia Eagles need to find a way to come away with the victory. Connor, your initial thoughts as we get ready to dive even deeper into this game.
Yeah, of course. I mean, half these teams, if they were in the AFC, would almost have playoff spots clinched. Like, it's crazy. The NFC is such a tough conference to play in right now, and there's so many really solid teams with really good good quarterback play, good defense in the Eagles, good defensive play. They're all playing well in different aspects of the game that's making this conference so difficult to play in. But I agree with you. The talk has been insane. Like, I've been on X trying to catch up with some of it, and like, people are already looking towards the off season, and like, someone had made a comment about, how about we move on from trade AJ Brown and move on to George Pickens, and I'm like, oh man, like some of the luck. But first of all, like, my logic is this: we are a team that is the defending Super Bowl champions, sitting at 8-2, about to clinch the NFC East, very much looking towards potentially being the number one seed in the NFC, very much looking towards a deep playoff run and potentially another Super Bowl appearance. And it feels like we're 2-8. It feels like we never won a Super Bowl last year. It feels like just the frustration of this offense has literally reached a point with fans and with certain media. Some media are a bit more rational about it, we'll say. But then there's certain media that are going to overreact to because, they get the clicks, they get the attention they want, they get all the people on X tagging them, and that's exactly what they want. They're doing their job the way they want, not the way we like it as true Eagles, diehard Eagles fans. That like WIP is not the beat in the heart and soul of the Philadelphia Eagles and what we want to see and hear at any time of day. But obviously, they're getting what they want out of the fan base and riling them up. But yeah, I agree with you. I feel like every week we come on, and this year has been the wildest year where we have had to defend winning in a league where winning is all that really matters more than we've ever had to defend it before. We've been doing this together for, I believe this is our 7th or 8th season. We didn't keep track. We probably should have kept track. But this is our 7th or 8th season together. And I've never had to talk about an 8-2 team and how much winning matters as much as we have, or justifying what winning means as much as we have had to this season. And it has been absolutely infuriating. I posted something to the Facebook page this week. We have the best winning percentage against winning teams with a winning record in the NFL. The best. 80% of our wins have come against a team that when we faced them had a winning record. And the Cowboys, they have one win against a team with a winning record. One. That is it. And it's actually not, I think they actually counted the tie because I don't think it was even a win. It was the tie in the game that they had the tie with. So we are finding ways to win. Is it ugly? Is it unenjoyable at times? Do we want the offense to do better? Exactly like what you said. 100%. We want the offense to do better. We want to find a way to click. We don't want to be carried by this defense because the defense eventually will, hit moments where they cannot carry us and they need the offense to help and pull their weight. But winning is winning. 8-2 is 8-2. We are not 2-8. We are not a team that is in complete shambles. I think the media likes to paint a picture of a team in complete shambles, but I don't think this team is actually in shambles, or they put on an amazing show in front of the media. It's one or the other. But this team has never been a team that just puts a show on for the media. They speak the truth. They're honest. They're forthright with it. We've only had a couple seasons where we've clearly been able to potentially pinpoint, a locker room cancer or a major locker room situation. So, I mean, I agree with you. I'm so annoyed. I'm so infuriated. I've never seen the media want a team to fail so badly. And I know that initial thoughts have nothing to do with the Dallas Cowboys, but the Philadelphia media and the media in general have made this game not even matter as a game, but matter as the Philadelphia Eagles need to get right in some way. And if they don't get right, they're going to continue to be front page news again next week.
And the media made it seem like that the Eagles weren't focusing on Dallas all week, while Dallas obviously has been focusing on the Eagles, and now this game means more for Dallas. This game is still important for the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously. And I'm fully convinced that the media in Philly would much rather them to be a 2-8 team instead of an 8-2 team that just wins. Like it's insane. And like the one thing, like talking about Jalen Hurts and how the reports, and again, I don't know how true these reports are, that some people inside the Eagles building are infuriated or just don't like the way Jalen plays. Again, when did winning not matter? The Eagles are 40-2 under Nick Sirianni when they win the turnover battle. So pretty much, I get it. Do we hate that? Is it annoying that Jalen is conservative and doesn't put the ball in the harm's way? Sometimes it is. But guess what? When they win the turnover battle, they win the game 95, whatever 40 divided by 42 is, whatever that percentage is. They win the game that much. So, we waited so long for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. We won it in 2017. And I didn't want to wait another 52 years to win another Super Bowl. And it took us 8 years to win another Super Bowl. like, let's just enjoy. This is the greatest era in Eagles football. Why it annoys me that people are trying to bring it down. Just enjoy the ride. We'll get tell-all books after all these guys retire potentially. We'll get whatever. We'll get if AJ happens to get traded in all season, he may eventually talk like about what's going on between him and Jalen, whatever it is. But right now, this moment in time, enjoy it. And I honestly think that like inside the building, they block out all the noise from the media. This is why I'm intrigued when Hard Knocks comes out in a couple of weeks. Because I honestly have no idea what's going to get caught, if any of this is going to get caught, and if it is, how it's going to be portrayed. Like, I'm honestly like I don't know if you saw the trailer for it, for Hard Knocks. I did post it on our WhatsApp, in our Discord page for the team. So like, I'm very like, I can't wait for it to come out, and this would be the first time ever that the Eagles are on it, even though it's a division thing. So I'm definitely intrigued to see how that goes, how Nick Sirianni is with them, how Jalen is, AJ, how everybody is with them. The other thing you brought up,
if there's nothing, to be honest, because I feel like
they're not going to let what happens to the Giants happen to them. That's not going to happen.
Exactly, and I agree with that. And like, so many teams are going to talk about this was our best era, like the Buffalo Bills are going to talk about the Josh Allen era and be like, the Josh Allen era was so amazing. They never won a Super Bowl. They never were able to overcome Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, in the playoffs when it matters. They dominate them in the regular season, but when it comes to their matchup, the game that actually matters, they're never able to win. We get to sit there and do so much turnover. 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different head coaches, so much just turnover in the staff, in the players, and we're able to continue to see, minus a year or two in the last 7 years, see such an amazing era and run for the Eagles. It's not like the Bill Belichick and the Tom Brady era. That was a dynasty that, to have a coach and a player be able to go that long and find that much sustained success, there may never be another team like that. But to think that we're living in an era with so much change, so much turnover, so much different coaches, different players, and the same old Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman's the centerpiece of this era, of this dynasty that's running with the Eagles right now. And the fact that he's able to continue to make this a competitive team over and over again is, to me, so impressive. And I think that the media totally underrates how difficult it is to do what the Eagles have done over the last 7 years, minus a couple seasons, like I just said. But it is not easy to win on a consistent level and to have this turnover and continue to be the team that the Eagles have been over these few seasons. It just doesn't happen. And I think that the Philadelphia media absolutely, totally, and the national media totally, absolutely underrates this.
If they want to be a fan of a team that scores points, go be a fan of the Bengals. They score a lot of points, but guess what? They miss the playoffs almost all the time. So just shut up, enjoy the ride, and let's go on this ride together. And the one other thing I do want to bring up, or you mentioned how there were fans saying something about trade AJ, sign George Pickens, whatever, and Pickens is a big head case too. And he's fine right now because he's like second in the league in receiving, and the leads Dallas in all their receiving statistics because Lamb was out for a couple of games. But like, I love, I'm gonna say this: I do not want AJ Brown traded. If they can find a way to keep him here, I want him to stay here. I love Devontae Smith. Like, Devontae Smith is a number 1 receiver. His numbers are really good right now because AJ Brown is still attracting attention. So if you were to get rid of AJ Brown and not replace him with somebody of similar-ish, and I'll say similar-ish because I don't know if he'd be able to find, somebody of that quality, how is that going to affect Devontae Smith? How's that going to affect the rest of the offense? So, like, you can't just be like, well, we're going to get rid of AJ Brown. Like, okay, but what is your plan to replace him? You have to find a plan, and it'd be tougher because if you trade him, unless there's a restructuring that can happen, the cap hit you're going to take by trading AJ Brown is going to probably affect how you can allocate money to the receiver position when you're going to have to pay AJ or Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, hopefully, maybe Jalen Phillips, and then in another year or two, the corners, Quinyon and Cooper. So like, and maybe Reed Blankenship, even though I wouldn't be mad if he didn't come back. Like there still are like you have to think about it like financial. You have to be financially responsible. People just say this stuff like it's easy, wham bam, we can do this and nothing's going to be affected. No, there are ramifications if you do something. The best thing for the Eagles is to keep AJ Brown. Will they be able to? Who knows? Obviously, we hope so. I hope so. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, Connor, but I love AJ Brown, and everything he has said has been the truth. If there's one thing he said that was a lie, I haven't heard it yet because he has spoken the truth. So, yes, he wants to help the offense. Does he want his stats? Probably, and you can't blame him, but he also thinks that if he is productive, the offense is productive. I don't know how hard it is for people to understand that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And like when he responded, because I know there's a ton of people playing on the words that he said when he was asked about if he's different than last year, and he said, well, then Saquon's different too, and everyone's running with it as if like it's an attack on Saquon Barkley, when in reality it's just saying Saquon Barkley is not doing as well as he did last year. So does that mean Saquon Barkley is not the same? Why are you not asking the same questions as Saquon Barkley? Whereas the rest of the media is running with it as, an attack on one of his fellow teammates. And it's not true, and it's just not the reality. And I don't know if I can count on my two hands how many more wide receivers I would want beyond AJ Brown on this roster.
And they have to be available too.
And they have to be available, yeah, exactly. And so statistically, is he having a bad season? Yes, but is statistically he having a bad season because of himself? No, we know that it's not because of himself. We know that if the offense was predicated on running more through him or getting the ball more to him, he would probably have much better stats. And if the route concepts, we talked about, go back to the last episode if you want to hear us to go on about all the things that are wrong with the offense, because we went off on 3 or 4 different areas of the offense that are frustrating and the cause for why Saquon Barkley does not look like Saquon Barkley of 2024, and AJ Brown doesn't look like AJ Brown of 2024, and so on and so forth. It's just so unfortunate that they continue to berate him with the questions that they do, and I felt that when he answered that Saquon question that night, I don't know if that was Wednesday media availability, but I felt he handled himself incredibly well. At one point, he straight up said, "Can we talk about Dallas? Can you ask about Dallas?" And that was to me the sign that the media is not even thinking about this as a game. They're just trying to get clicks. They're just trying to get attention to their questions versus being good media personalities. And Ray Lester 3997 says that Saquon line was a cop out. I mean, you could argue, but like, what was AJ Brown gonna say in that situation otherwise that was gonna be justifiable? At this point, everything that AJ Brown says is put under a microscope. But the issue with AJ Brown in this situation is AJ Brown has to make himself available to the media. He has to make himself, he has to answer these questions, and he's just thinking off the top of his head of things. And I know Ray says the question was, the question wasn't about Saquon. No, the question wasn't about Saquon, but the point that AJ Brown made, and I'll let you speak to this too in a minute. In a minute there, LJ. The point was he's making, if I'm not doing statistically well and this person isn't doing statistically well, that's where he's trying to draw the comparison, that this offense as a whole is not doing as well as they did last year. And why are you asking only me that question?
Well, Saquon does get asked that question too. He has been asked that in the past, and he just like the offensive line says, it's like they're just one block, one play away from breaking one, which is true. And maybe this week will be the week. And I hate when Jordan Mailata does say that we are one block away. Well, make that block is what I kind of say to that. It does get a little frustrating. The one thing you said that I kind of disagree on, you said that it's AJ's production being down isn't because some of it, injuries. I still think he's injured. He obviously isn't going to admit to it, but I think he is banged up still, whether it's his hamstring, knee, whatever, I don't know. But I think that is the reason, because like he's his first couple of years here, not one person ever brought him down. So I do think that might be a tad bit of an injury. Will we ever find out? Probably not. But, I hopefully this is the week. Like, Dallas's secondary is not good. Their front four is good. And their linebackers are Logan Wilson coming from Cincinnati, better than what they had. Overshawn is back. He's an athletic guy, but he has the propensity to miss tackles and whatnot. But their secondary is absolute trash. So hopefully the
They just
Eagles.
let go of Kyrie Elam today, so they're already down another DB. They pretty much have Deron Bland and, new practice squad players out there
Yeah,
at the
Deron
quarterback.
Bland, Kalen Carson, um, Siobhan Revel played his first game last week. They got their safeties back. But I do feel that the Eagles should, if they want to, take advantage through the air. Now, again, from the week 1 to now, Dallas has Quinnen Williams. They made the trade with the Jets to get Quinnen Williams. They do have Jadeveon Clowney. He's questionable. He probably will play. We'll see. And again, DeMarvion Overshawn is back. Logan Wilson, they made the trade. Trayvon Diggs is on IR. So this team is different defensively. I mean, they still have Matt Eberflus calling plays, and he's bad. So last week, the Raiders couldn't really put points on the board, but they were moving the ball on Dallas. And so I think that I'm not calling this a get-right game for the Eagles. Again, I don't care about if the offense gets right or not. I just want a win. But if there's a game, they're not going to be going up. They've been playing really good Green Bay, like really good defenses lately. They get Dallas, who's a middle to the back end of the road defense. The Bears aren't that good of a defense, and they have a bunch of injuries, but they might have a couple of guys coming back by Friday. And the Raiders are a terrible defense. The Chargers are a so-so defense. Washington's defense isn't that good. They're old. And the Bills' defense is very inconsistent. So, like, we're now at the part of the schedule where you're going to be facing better offenses, so that's going to test our defense. But the defenses that our offense is going to go up against isn't going to be that great. So the Eagles just have to come out, and hopefully Kevin Patullo figures his crap out. He's the guy that I'm worried about because he is still predictable with his play calls. He's still predictable when it comes to formations, still predictable when it comes to the route combinations, and the defensive backs can just sit on routes because they don't think that AJ or Devontae are going to run right by them. So hopefully that changes up. You can do double moves on Deron Bland all day, get him to jump, because we know that he is trying to anticipate the throw to get a pick six because that's what he does. So take advantage of the disadvantages of the Dallas defense.
Yeah, agreed. Abid Sazad, we see your comment. We'll hit on it when we move over to the defensive side of the ball. But I agree with you offensively. As much as it's a get right game, I don't think we can call these games get right games anymore. These just need to be show us you can do anything on offense type of game. Show us something has changed. I will never call a game a get right game until we see, consistency, because a get right game would mean that at some point in the season, something was going right. And I mean, while we have had some games where we've found some offensive success, they haven't really been consistent games. We've never seen more than a couple quarters of really good offensive ball from this Philadelphia Eagles offense. So we'll see. I'm not calling this a get right game, but this is a game where, if Matt Eberflus is able to read Kevin Patullo, I mean, I think Kevin Patullo's days as a play caller in Philadelphia are numbered. I think they're numbered anyways, but I think like if Eberflus is able to see through things, or this defense is able to see through what's happening while you're setting up on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, there's no worse feeling, there's no worse situation. I agree with you. While I think the Dallas Cowboys had the easiest schedule of the NFC East teams this year. Like I said earlier in the episode, it's worth noting that they don't even have a full win against a team with a winning record. They have a tie, and that was against the Green Bay Packers. So, like you said, when you're looking at it from that standpoint, like they've put up a boatload of yards. They're over 300 yards of total offense every single game except for one, and that was against the Carolina Panthers, oddly enough. And then for the defensive side of the ball, I mean, they give up a lot of yards. There's only 2 games where they gave up less than 200 passing yards. and that was the Philadelphia Eagles in week 1 and the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, week 1 is almost
And they
like a
lost both games.
and they lost both games exactly. Were what well worth noting. So and then when you look all the way through, they have given up over 300 yards in every single game total as a defense, minus 1 game, and that was the most recent Raiders game. And I mean, the fact that the Raiders put up over 200 passing yards is pretty impressive.
And the Raiders' offensive line is so bad. Like, watching the first half of that game, Dallas seemed like their front four just got pressure whenever they won it. And while we're not going to have Lane Johnson, we'll have Fred Johnson, and we surprisingly we're going to have Cam Jurgens, which is a good sign. Hopefully, I don't anticipate that they'll get that same pressure immediately. Will they get pressure? Probably, but also Jalen is much more of an athletic quarterback than Geno Smith. And as Abid Sazad says, the decision to block Hutchinson last week with Grant Calcaterra and Kylan Granson was terrible. I agree. They both cannot block. They need the Eagles. I want to see more of Cam Latu as the second or third tight end. He already blocks. He had a great block on Hutchinson last week. He already blocks, from the fullback position. Put him he was a tight end at Alabama. Put him at the tight end position and let him he can actually block. And that will help. Like you might not be able to go to your 6-man offensive line as much because Fred Johnson was that 6th man. So maybe instead of doing that, you go to a Cameron Latu. So hopefully we see more of him because I am tired of seeing Grant Calcaterra and Kylan Granson block. Also, that one play that they threw the deep shot to Granson, why wasn't that to AJ Brown or Devontae Smith? Like, again, the personnel that's on the field in certain situations just does not make sense.
Yeah, like Kylan Granson should never be, 30 plus yards downfield looking for a ball. It just doesn't make sense. That's where you have even Jahan Dotson would have been a better choice in that situation. Even whoever is behind them in the wide receiving room would have been a better decision. Darius Cooper, Xavier Gibson, you could put Gibson out there and run that route, and I would be more on board with it than sending Granson out there. Why they feel they need to force feed Calcaterra and Granson down our throat makes zero sense. We had Jack Stoll. We know what it's like to have a really plain Jane, boring ass tight end who just blocks a bit and just does the basics, can catch a ball 10 times a year when he's called upon. I am totally fine with Cameron Latu being that type of guy rather than Calcaterra and Granson and seeing what we're continuing to see week in and week out. I think that figuring out that is part of the way of improving on this offense because they're trying to they put jumbo sets out there with Calcaterra and Granson out there, or Goddard with Calcaterra, Goddard with Granson. They have these jumbo sets with the 2 tight ends out there far too often, and they're so you can tell what they're doing when they're going to do it, and then when they have to go off script and not do what they're going to do, which is run, and they go off script and try and do a pass, it looks like the Kylan Granson play of last week, and it just does not make any sense for them to continue to force feed them. Grant Calcaterra is a good pass catcher. That is fine. But we have learned time and time again, he's not a run blocker, pass blocker. He's not a blocker of any kind. He shouldn't be out there in any type of blocking scenario, and neither should Granson. Granson kind of moved around the league for a reason. He's not an all-around tight end. We don't have an all-around tight end. That was one of the things that I really, really wish that Howie had addressed at the trade deadline. That was the one other need that I think really needed to be addressed. And I don't know whose opinion he was taking in, no, we're good at tight end, but it wasn't the right opinion. And I don't know who would have made that point. But look at Darnell Washington last week. 300-pound guy, and he had the angriest run of the entire week in the league. And that was probably a guy that if you had have reached out to the Pittsburgh Steelers, very well may have been available. And he doesn't catch the ball often. He's more of a blocker. At the time when he came into the league, I remember we talked about him on draft shows, and there was a thought of actually moving him into the tackle position and making him a tackle in the NFL and not a tight end. Like, I feel like there was people out there that they could have went after, and it's frustrating that we have to watch Calcaterra and Granson and how terrible they are week in and week out, thinking that they're actually going to change. But I mean, sorry, that would just rant on.
I feel like I do going off your Darnell Washington after the Pittsburgh made the trade for Jonnu Smith. I feel like the Eagles probably could have called them because they had Smith and Freiermuth and Washington, and maybe they could have could have gotten Washington. And I think we were clamoring for that in the offseason, or at least, when they made the Jonnu Smith trade to call them up to get a second tight end. And you were talking about him maybe becoming a tackle. He could have took the Jason Peters route, who was a tight end at Arkansas, and then moved to the tackle when he went to the Bills. Oliver Powell joining us. Go Birds. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Go Birds. Dallas sucks as always. Got to throw that in there as we are talking to the Dallas Cowboys. Let's jump over to the Eagles defense. There were a lot of people saying, going into this gauntlet of offenses that we were playing, Green Bay and Detroit, now Dallas, that Detroit is, Abid says it would be nice to get a Johnny Wilson type role. They did work out Zach Pascal, and I think that they might, if that's the type of role they would see Zach Pascal in, and he did that, they could use a kind of they've been trying Darius Cooper in that role, and I don't know if he's ready for it yet, but Zach Pascal, I don't know if they'll sign him, but he could be somebody that they potentially look at in a role like that.
Yeah,
because Johnny Wilson is a really good blocking receiver.
Yeah, they obviously made no move this week, but I mean, if they continue to see things like they saw last week with Calcaterra and Granson, and I mean, Lane Johnson not being put on the IR makes me think they're still working on getting a second opinion on his foot and what they're going to do.
Which I agree with, but also sucks because if he does eventually have to go on IR, that's technically like an additional game. Like, say if they put him on IR, and you have to miss 4 weeks, right? It's not 4 games, right? It's 4 weeks, but whatever.
They should just
get him back. They could get him back in a month, but if they get the second opinion, then they put him on IR. What if he's ready in 2 weeks? You still have to wait an additional 2 weeks. So it does kind of suck that they didn't do it, but maybe like he is one tough SOB. So maybe like he feels that it won't take the entire 4 weeks. Obviously I think they're still waiting for the swelling, to come down. Jump into the Eagles. Speaking about the Eagles defense.
Before we move there, to Sean Cato, do you think they were bringing Cooks for the role? Cooks is not a blocker. He's a small body wide receiver. He had speed. He'll be your downfield threat. I don't see them bringing in Brandon Cooks, to be completely honest, but he's not a blocker. He's not going to solve anything from a blocking perspective.
I think he might end up potentially. Maybe he'll go back to the Patriots. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the Eagles won't sign him. But now again, jumping over to the Eagles defense, giving up 16 points the last 2 weeks, against a really good Detroit offense and a so-so, I will say, Green Bay offense. But they deserve a lot of credit. Jordan Davis was Defensive Player of the Week with his 3 batted down passes. The first ever Eagle to win Defensive Player of the Week and Special Teams Player of the Week in the same season. Howie Roseman, when he picked up the 5th-year option on Jordan Davis, a lot of people were saying, "What are you doing? This guy's not." He made the right move. So Jordan Davis has been really good. He has been able to play like half the snaps. And again, I think that that's fine for him, and the weight loss that he hasn't allowed that to affect him. Jalen Carter is turning into Jalen Carter. He's been like that the last couple of weeks. Jalen Phillips, what a trade! Obviously, he had a great game last week. And you expect him to continue. He wants to get paid, and will it be by the Eagles? Who knows? And there's a lot of talk, obviously, that the Eagles, made the move, traded the 3rd round pick because they think that they can get a 3rd or 4th round pick back in comp value if they don't re-sign him. So we'll see what happens there. Nakobe Dean, I love that guy. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. You have to find a way to bring him back. Nakobe Dean can't go anywhere. I know we drafted Jahad Campbell, and he is kind of the future. If you want all 3 linebackers on the field, go to a 4-3. Keep Dean. He is the heart and soul of this defense. They've gotten better since he's gotten back against the run. So I don't care what they have to do. They have to find a way to keep all the Georgia guys together. I'm in the secondary. Quinyon Mitchell is a legit top 5 corner right now. Like he's playing at an all-pro level. I think in week 1, he shadowed Pickens, if I'm not mistaken, because Pickens doesn't normally go into the slot and Mitchell's not really, doesn't go in the slot. Now I know we have Coop in the slot, so it doesn't matter. But Lamb likes to avoid that work on the outside, so he likes to go to the slot. Again, we have Cooper in the slot, so that'll be a fun battle. Corey Jackson. Now, he has been playing really well lately. Abid says, I've been hyping up Adoree this week and not focusing on this offense at all. Can't blame you there. I don't know if I'm going to hype up Adoree, but he has been playing better. But this is a different now. I think he was in coverage on Jameis's 40-yard touchdown last week. Jameson Williams is ridiculous, so like he's going to do that to a lot of people. Dallas has Lamb. Dallas has Pickens. They're going, and Dak has been playing really well this year. They're going to sling it around the yard. They're going to test whoever Adoree Jackson, or whoever, they're going to throw the ball to whoever Adoree Jackson is covering. This is going to be a battle for him. And I think that the trade for Michael Carter II could potentially come into play this week. We know that Quinyon Mitchell is, whoever he's covering, he's going to be step for step with that person. I am a little worried that there could be some defensive pass interference called on him this week. It's in Dallas. Dallas's receivers are notorious for getting DPI calls against them. So I am a little worried about that because he is handsy. But if Adoree Jackson struggles, which he may, you can move you can move Cooper to the outside and put Michael Carter into the slot. So this could be the week that we could see the Michael Carter trade really pay dividends potentially.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on so many names, so many great players. Obviously, like we know that the pendulum is going to swing from being one of the highest paid offenses in the league to being one of the highest paid defenses in the league. And that's why, like when people talk about moving on from AJ Brown, I don't think it's for another high price free agent. I think it's going through the draft to address that, but we can talk about that down the road. But the pendulum is swinging because, you're going to have to pay Jordan Davis. You're going to have to pay Nakobe Dean. You're going to have to pay Jalen Carter. You're going to have to pay Q down the road. You're going to have to pay Coop down the road. Reed Blankenship is owed a contract. Whether we like it or not, he's going to get some sort of contract. It may not be with the Eagles, although I feel like he's going to be with the Eagles. So, I mean, this defense is amazing. Howie has done an amazing job. And I hope when the pendulum swings and he's paying this side and he's got started addressing the offensive side of the ball through the draft, that he makes the right decisions on the offensive side of the ball like he clearly has on the defensive side of the ball. He says, for a couple comments, I would love to see the Birds play a 4-3. Of course, so would we. It's not really in Vic Fangio's playbook to go 4-3, but I mean, he might be able to get creative with that to make sure that the right guys are on the field. I agree with this, right? Jackson is still sus. Don't love the term sus, but yes, Jackson is still definitely someone who I think it's since someone had shared, I think it was Jeff Kirsch, said he hasn't given up more than 40 yards before this past week because he obviously gave up the big play to Jameson Williams. But up until that game in Detroit, he hadn't given up more than 40 yards since week 1. And I mean, he's been kind of on and off the field. And obviously that depends on how you're evaluating the play going on the field and if he was the nearest target or not. But to me, yeah, Adoree Jackson still against the right wide receiver, which maybe this could be the right wide receiving combo, could cause them issues. It'll be interesting to see. But I mean, if Jackson puts up another really good performance, I mean, we may be having a very different discussion next Tuesday about this because eventually we have to give him his credit where credit's due. But still, he is susceptible to giving up big plays. And like you said, of course, we may not get, there's not many teams that can say they're good at CB1, CB2, and the nickel cornerback position. Let's just face it, though. It's just you're not going to find 3 DBs who can really say we're the best, trio of cornerbacks in the league, and no one's going to put up any yards or points on us. That just doesn't happen very much in this NFL. I feel like with Adoree Jackson, I mean, he's gotten better, he's improved, he's doing what we need him to do. So it'll be interesting to see, up against CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, if he's going to continue to be able to do that. Some more comments here. I'd like to see Carter and or Bennett get a couple reps, says Ray Lester. I mean, we talked about Bennett, or I talked about Bennett last week, and LJ, you were the one that said that you didn't necessarily think that they needed to put Bennett out there and they could continue to roll with Jackson. I would like to see Bennett. I mean, he's under contract next year. Dory Jackson isn't under contract, but you got to go with what's working. And so far, Dory Jackson's working. Does he give up a play here and there? Definitely. But I'll kind of let you talk to that too, LJ. I mean, there's no need to force Carter out there. Our interior defense is better with Cooper DeJean there. Do we know what it looks like with Carter there? No, but we know that Carter is definitely lesser of a nickel corner than Coop. So I'll let you speak to that comment quickly.
Well, yeah, Carter only primarily plays slot corner, so or safety. But Andrew Makuba has been better at safety, and I think he even talked this week. He watched the film from week 1, and he's like, "I'm a totally different player, totally different person from there." He said it was such a bad game from him week 1, but like having the flexibility of Carter, who can play safety if needed, if something were to happen. I mean, that's good. Like they had him on the field when they went 6 defensive backs the last couple of weeks though, so he is getting out there on the field. But yeah, I want to keep DeJean as close to where the football is as possible, and that's primarily like within the box. So that's why I don't want Carter to go inside. That's my break glass in case of emergency. If the Dory Jackson is struggling so bad and you don't want to put Ringo out there, or Ringo goes out there and he also struggles, and then if you put Bennett out there and he also struggles, like it gets to a point to where you can't keep putting those guys out there, and that Coop is really good. And while he is one of the better, if not the best slot corners in the league, and one of the best tacklers from the cornerback position in the league, you might just put Carter at slot, put Coop on the outside, Quinion on one side, or Quinion, shadowing Pickens, and go from there and figure it out. And let's see how that goes. But putting Cooper on the outside is more my break glass in case of emergency, if it needs to happen. Hopefully it doesn't need to happen.
Agreed. And then we'll hit on a beat summit. Vic pointed out on a presser that out of all the backs, Reed Blankenship has the most on his play. So I think it's important that we elaborate, because we are very hard on Reed Blankenship, and elaboration is necessary in this case. Me and LJ do not like his tackling technique. If he could clean up his tackling technique, I think I'd be a lot more on board with Reed Blankenship. But the fact that he comes in like a heat-seeking missile and there's so much room for error is extremely frustrating. And the fact that those errors have come up in games.
He's out of position a lot too.
And he's out of position, and he's not a great coverage safety. I mean, can he make plays? Yes, every safety can make plays. Makuba's made a lot of plays. He's missed a boatload of plays this year. So we're not saying Reed doesn't have a lot on his plate, and we're not saying that there's a lot to work through. Our frustration stems from a couple things that you see much cleaner with, like a safety that you would pay big money to and who would be your primary safety. I don't want to put words in your mouth, LJ, so I'll let you speak on that very quickly.
No, I'm not a big fan of him, and I don't think he's that good. I think he's a third safety, not a starting safety. So like I want somebody else back there. And
running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
BTW FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an adjustable implant, 68 milligrams radio pain. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay? TTYL.
They're probably going to resign him. Great. I just don't think it's a smart, wise decision.
And then, I mean, I guess like this defense has been amazing. Like since Jalen Phillips came on board, since Nolan Smith was back, since Nakobe Dean's back, like this defense has looked really good. Like you alluded to, the Dallas Cowboys haven't really played really strong defenses. They played the Packers and they ended up tying that game, which is probably the best defense they played outside of this Eagles defense coming in.
The Broncos. They played the Broncos.
They played the Broncos. You're right, and the Broncos have a really good defense as well. And against the Broncos, they put 339 yards up on them in total offense. So it'll be interesting to watch this defense and see if they continue to be the defense that they are. But kind of like I alluded to earlier in the episode, you cannot continue to lean on them over and over and over again and expect that there may not be eventually a stumble or an issue and they give up some points in a situation where you don't want them to give up points. But that's where it comes to this offense needs to figure things out. But I mean, you hit on a lot of the big names and you made a lot of great points on them. This defense is really good. This defense is what ultimately, no matter what, is probably going to lead this team back to a deep run in the playoffs and potentially back to the Super Bowl. I hope that it just continues to remain consistent. And if you can stop an offense like the Dallas Cowboys, if you can hold them to minimal yardage, like I said, 292 was the lowest before this, and it was the Carolina Panthers. If you're able to hold them in the 300-yard range, that's on par with what the top defenses are holding them to, and I would be more than happy with that type of performance. But obviously, that's going to mean that the offense needs to put some points up. But this is one of those situations where this defense can do it, should be able to do it, but is going to need some help from the offense.
And the Eagles are going to be facing a Dallas offense that's fully healthy and playing well. Dak, Javonte Williams is playing really well. He had a couple of touchdowns in that week 1 game. CeeDee Lamb had a couple of drops in the week 1 game. George Pickens, obviously. Jake Ferguson. The Eagles seem to they struggle with Dallas tight ends for some reason. So that could be a matchup for Dean or Baun or even Coop potentially against Ferguson. And their offensive line, Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Booker, Terrence Steele. Terrence Steele is the weak link on that offensive line. So that could be potentially, where Jalen Phillips can really, really, do some damage in this game if he can get around Steele. I'm really intrigued that this is going to be one of my matchups to watch. Jalen Carter against Tyler Booker. Somebody had asked Jalen Carter about Tyler Booker because Tyler Booker said that when he got drafted, he loves seeing the fear in guys' eyes, like when he's facing them, because, he thinks that highly of himself. And Jalen just was like, I have no fear. That's pretty much what he said. He's like, I have no fear. I am really looking forward to that battle. And we've got to remember, Jalen didn't play in week 1. He got kicked out before the first play. So because of the spitting, even though Dak spit first, the spitting incident, and having the vets, having Brandon Graham back, I think is going to help. Having Nakobe Dean out there is going to help, keep him level headed, because Dallas is probably going to try to get into his head to see if they can have him do something stupid to get him kicked out the game again. But I am really looking forward to Jalen Carter and Tyler Booker, and Jalen Carter makes especially with the way he's playing, makes a world of difference for this defense. The way he's been playing the last couple of reasons is the guy that you want to give $150 million to. And obviously the Eagles are going to pay him, and it's going to depend on how much money, obviously, what he gets paid, but they're going to pay him over the next year or two. He's going to want to go out there and prove it. And this is going to be the game. Like I mentioned it early on the onset. You win 2 games this week. Dallas loses 2 games this week. You win the NFC East. So everybody's saying Dallas, this game means more to Dallas. No, the Eagles are playing for something too. They're playing to win this division and for the number 1 seed. So this is going to be it's going to be matchups all over the field. There's going to be all pros all over the field. And while I know Dallas has a 4-5-1 record, and I don't think they're that good, they've beaten up on some bad teams. The Raiders are bad. Like that again. That offensive line was a turnstile. Geno Smith isn't any good. Their defense couldn't cover anybody. Dallas is will they put up points? They'll put up points, but I don't think they're going to have it as easy as they had it last week against the Raiders.
Yeah, they definitely won't have it as easy as they had against the Raiders last week. The Raiders, there's thoughts that they could be one and done with Pete Carroll. That's how bad this situation is there. There's so much rebuilding to do there that, the fact that if you take pride in 33-16 over the Raiders, it
is the Dallas Cowboys we're talking about, though. They take pride in anything because they think they're God's gift to the world.
Exactly. And before we move on to our next point, there was just a report that came through from Jeff McClain that says it looks like Lane Johnson may not miss the 4 weeks. It looks like Lane Johnson is really unsurprisingly trying to make it back before that 4-week mark. It kind of sucks because then you have to hold the roster spot for him. And they have Willie Lampkin that they have to make a decision on next week. And then in 2 weeks' time, they have Miles Hinton, who they're going to have to make a decision on before their 21-day window is closed. And I feel like Hinton's window was open specifically because of Lane Johnson and what might happen with him. But that was a Jeff McClain report that came out in the last little bit, kind of
Well, I mean,
saying
we have like AJ Dillon still on the roster. If they wanted to get rid of somebody, they can get rid of him.
that.
Like
Oh,
Tank
there's
Bigsby
guys.
is get the second running back. Matt Pryor could be gone if need be. So like, I mean, I would much rather keep Lane Johnson than keep a Matt Pryor or AJ Dillon.
And you want the best guys that are going to be on the roster. So Miles Hinton over Matt Pryor all day for me. Give the young guy an opportunity if the opportunity is going to arise, which you hope it's not going to arise. And then for Lampkin, the pot that you stirred with the Rams when you picked him up off of waivers, and it was this unspoken code that you're supposed to let this guy go to the IR for the other team so they can claim him. Like, I mean, it feels like you have to make sure he's on the roster. And I mean, Brett Toth has gotten better, but I mean, you want to go with Brett Toth is Brett Toth. You want to go with some of these young guys. You picked Willie Lampkin up for a reason. Back in the offseason, I wanted them to get Lampkin in general in the draft. So, like, at the end of the day, you're going to want those young guys to be on the roster. Brett Toth brings experience, but Brett Toth will probably clear waivers and land back on your roster for you. Been Ducks as Lane Johnson get healthy, please. Absolutely. We all know that we're like we're what are we 11 and 22 with our Lane Johnson, 14 and
I will
25 with
say,
our
Fred, they were 5-1 last year with Fred Johnson start.
exactly. I mean, I still am shocked they let him go. Thankfully they got him back. But to
And
the
he's
next
out to prove that he's a starting lineman starter in this league. And who knows how much longer Lane Johnson has. And if the Eagles do win the Super Bowl this year, that's 3 for him. Maybe he calls it quits. Maybe he's like, I'm going out on top, back-to-back Super Bowl champion. So we'll see what happens. And then Fred Johnson.
even if he proved to just be an extremely valuable swing tackle, like he's shown such importance to this roster over the last 2 years that it can't go understated.
Yeah, so it was a good trade by Howie to get him back after realizing that they needed to improve the depth at the offensive line. All right, so we're going to jump to our players to watch, keys to the game, then our unheralded player of the week from what week was that? Week 12 in the National Football, or no, week 11, excuse me, in the National Football League, and then we will give our predictions. Connor, you can go first.
My key to the game, my major key to the game is that this offense just support the defense in any way. The high 3-and-out rate has to stop. How quickly some of the 3-and-outs happen has to stop. My player to watch is going to be AJ Brown. AJ Brown would have been lined up with Kyrie Elam per depth charts if you're looking at the depth charts. Kyrie Elam is no longer there. So technically, CJ Goodwin would be the next in line, but obviously the Cowboys probably have a plan to move some pieces around and make some changes at the cornerback position. Even if he's lined up against Deron Bland, can Deron Bland make some big plays? Yes. Is he going to make those big splash interception plays against Jalen Hurts of all people? Highly unlikely, because Jalen Hurts isn't one of those guys who's going to make those mistakes. So, I mean, AJ Brown, I hate going the AJ Brown route, but I feel like AJ Brown has to be the one here. I'm not saying force the ball to him like last week. Sometimes it felt like the ball was being forced to him. I'm saying find him in the right positions. He's going to make big plays. While some people, earlier in the comments were saying he's given up on plays, he's still playing through a lot of plays just as much as it may look like he's given up on some plays. So offensively, they just need to help in some way, some shape, some form this defense, put up any points to help take some pressure off of this defense. Clearly, this defense doesn't feel as much pressure as the offense, but you would like to see the offense help to make life a little bit easier for the defense. On the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be just stop the big plays, fundamentals, just like last week. Make those tackles. Don't let CeeDee Lamb make plays after the catch. Don't let George Pickens get away with just mossing you over top. Just fundamentals, no limit the penalties. Obviously, last week the defense had no penalties. The offense had like 6 penalties. It was crazy. The offense shot themselves in the foot multiple times with penalties last week. But just, make the fundamental plays, make the tackles, keep the play in front of you, because we know that the Dallas Cowboys can do so much if they get behind you. They average well over, I believe it's well over 325 yards a game on offense. So don't let them do that to you. And we know that this defense is fully capable of stopping it. On that side of the ball, um, I am going to go with. It's a tough one. There's so many great matchups to watch for this defense, but I'm gonna go with Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips has continued to be a difference maker over and over again over the last couple weeks for us. You can tell this defense looks a lot different with him and Nakobe Dean in the fold. So I'm gonna go with Jalen Phillips, who lines up on both sides of it, but technically on the left side of it, which means he's going up against Terrence Steele. This offensive line isn't great, isn't bad, but you can respect it in a way. But I feel like this front four should be able to take more than enough advantage of this front of the Dallas Cowboys.
On the offensive side of the football, my key to the game is going to be be anticipatory, if that makes any sense. Like, no holding the ball if you're Jalen. If you're Kevin Patullo, you have to be one step ahead, two steps ahead of Matt Eberflus. Find ways to get AJ, Devontae, Dallas Goedert open, and then hopefully the offensive line can, open up lanes for Saquon and Tank Bigsby. I do want to see Tank Bigsby on the field a little bit more. He shows a lot of burst. So give him a chance with the football in his hands. And, would have thought, again, a lot of people were saying trading 2 draft picks for a kick returner was bad, but trading 2 draft picks for a second running back isn't that bad of an idea, especially a 6th and a 7th. So that was good. And my battle, or my players to watch, is going to be the interior of the Eagles offensive line. Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen against Kenny Clark, and Quinnen Williams. Got to find a way to win the bag. You cannot allow Quinnen Williams to get penetration right up the middle on Jalen Hurts. And we got stopped on the tush push 2 or 3 times last week. That can't happen again if you're going to use it. So they need to be able to get push up the middle. We know Jalen likes to usually go behind Landon Dickerson, and so you can anticipate Dallas is going to kind of lean that way. So hopefully the Eagles have something off of that. On the defensive side of the football, you kind of said it. Limit the big plays. Dallas is going to try, force feed the ball to Lamb and to Pickens. Don't allow. If you allow a catch, that's fine. Make the tackle. Don't allow yards after the catch. Something that Dallas does really well. Those receivers. My matchup, my player on the all defensive side of the football, Jalen Carter. And I mentioned it before, Jalen Carter versus Tyler Booker. I am looking forward to that matchup. And Jalen, you can tell the defense watches film and the high IQ of the defense, because we've seen it multiple times over the last couple of weeks where the defensive line is calling out what the play is, calling out where the play is going to go. Vic Fangio has this defense playing at an all-time high level right now, and let's hope they can continue it against a pretty good defense. All right, Connor, do you have your unheralded player of the week for last week?
You bet I do. I'm going with Tet McMillan. I haven't used him. He's been pretty good throughout this year on a middle of the road, but while in the hunt. Carolina Panthers team. Ted McMillan went 8 for 130 and 2 touchdowns against the Falcons last week. And the Carolina Panthers, are 6-5 and in the hunt, and very well could end up one of the final playoff teams in this wild NFC picture. It'll be interesting to see the Carolina Panthers going forward. They have some pieces, but they're clearly missing some significant pieces as well. But Ted McMillan for me this week.
I'm going with a McMillan as well, just not Tet, even though I thought it's Tet. Jaquan McMillan, a 4th-year corner from the Broncos. With Pat Surtain out, he's kind of jumped in there as a starter. He had 2 sacks and an interception last week in the Broncos' 22-19 victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. So Jaquan McMillan gets my unheralded player of the week for week 11 in the National Football League. All right, Connor, it's prediction time. I have mine written down, and I won't lie to you, I've had mine written down since Tuesday when we did our review show of the Detroit Lions game. We are both 6-4. The Eagles are coming into this game on a 4-game winning streak, first place in the NFC, sitting at 8-2. The Dallas Cowboys are 4-5-1. They need this game more than the Eagles need this game. But the Eagles also need to stay pace with the other teams in the NFC with the top seed. What is your prediction?
This is tough, because last week I went with a really high score and it ended up not even being remotely close. But I do feel like, if there's anyone who's extremely good at getting those garbage time touchdowns and yards and what they need to do to make it look like it should be closer than it actually is. It is Dak Prescott. He is the king of it. 724 for the Eagles.
All right. I have a lower scoring game. I feel like I'm the one with the low scoring games. 24-14 Eagles. This defense is going to show up and show out. Dallas has been feasting on bad teams. This is a short, and we're going into a short week for both teams. Dallas hosts the Chiefs on Thursday. The Eagles host the Bears on Friday. This is a gauntlet for Dallas. They have the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Lions. So, like, their season is pretty much, like, is on the brink. Like, if they lose these next three, they're done. If they lose this week, they're done. If they lose to the Eagles tomorrow, they're done. The Eagles don't, it's very rare when the Eagles sweep the Cowboys. They swept them last year, but, like, sweep them 2 years in a row. I feel like that hasn't happened in 20 years or however long it's been. But I think that the Eagles defense is going to show out. The Eagles offense is going to do just enough to win. It wouldn't shock me if we got a defensive score by the Eagles, whether it's Coop or whether it's on somebody like that. But I think that the Eagles are going to put a clamp on Dallas 14.
Yeah, I guess I should say my 27 is absolutely not all coming from the offense. I feel like there's something coming from the defense in some form in this game. But this is going to be a big game. I mean, this is a chance for a repeat NFC East champion for the first time in 21 years.
20 years since the 2004 to 2005. 20 years. 2003, 2004 Eagles, I think. So 21 years. It's been whatever. It's been 20.
It was 20. I think this is the 21st year. So the year maybe we see that broken, and I mean it would be a good year to do it. I mean this would be tough. To be swept by the Cowboys would be a tough loss to take and a tough pill to swallow. So let's hope it doesn't happen.
It's going to be a big game in Big D tomorrow. The Kelly Green wearing Philadelphia Eagles against the 4-5-1 Dallas Cowboys. Thank you all for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJ54. And thank you for all the comments in the chat. I'm trying to thank you. I was trying to drag this along to get let it beads get. Which matchup do you like better? Our defense versus Cowboys O, or our offense versus Cowboys D?
Our defense versus Cowboys offense for sure.
Our defense is good. And I know Dallas's
offense is potentially good. Like you said, they're beating up on bad teams, but they're still putting up yardage. They're still putting up points, which means our defense has to respect them. And if they can shut them down, it would be huge.
Yes, but it's going to be a fun and exciting game. And wear your Kelly Green uniform, wear your Kelly Green jerseys tomorrow, shirts, whatever it is. 4:25 kickoff here on the East Coast on Fox. Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you all for tuning in to this edition of the Kelly Green Hour. For Connor, I'm LJ. Enjoy the game tomorrow.
Fly, Eagles, fly.